they saw me, and I was always optimistic, I was always positive. And then in retrospect, they said, you were such a great role model for us, because going through this, you were always positive, showed us what we should be like when we have setbacks in our lives as well. I thought, well, that's good.
So another benefit from the situation.
Yeah.
So what was the time span from the time you saw your doctor, the time you found out you had cancer, to the time treatment started,
Right.
to the time you said, or you got news that it's gone?
Yeah, well, it was in February that I went and had the checkup on my throat. Doctor told me, looks like cancer. I had a biopsy in March, and the biopsy came back with MRIs and PET and CT scans. They came back with this, the technology today is absolutely amazing. It's so wonderful. I've run into people and doctors and widows and widowers, especially widows, who said that their husband had these pains and problems and so on, and he just brushed them aside. By the time he finally had to go to a doctor, it was too late for the doctor to save them. The medical technology we have in this country is beyond imagination. So I'm so happy, and I took action. I respected my doctor. He said, do this, do that. I went immediately, and they caught it early, and they were saving. So March I had the biopsy. April I began chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is interesting. For the first chemotherapy session, it's 8 hours. Wow. And you sit there, and they have a gurney that drips chemicals into your system for 8 hours. But the chemicals are, first of all, there's a relaxant, then there's an spasmodic chemical, then there's an antiemetic so you don't get throwing up. And the chemicals are balanced in such a way. So at the end of the day, I went for a walk for an hour with my wife, and we went out to a movie. In other words, you think it would be destructive. And the radiation, the oncologist who was in charge of the chemotherapy is a wonderful man. All the people are wonderful and sensitive. And so it was like just something you have to do. And then I said, well, I have these bookings because I make bookings well in advance, and they're well paid, and they're paid in advance. And I didn't want to have to give the money back. And I said to my doctor, because you're supposed to have chemo every 3 weeks, I said, I'm really concerned about this because it's right in the middle of a European trip. Blah, blah, blah. He said, oh no, you can take the trip, catch up with your chemo later. Really? Absolutely. So he worked around my schedule, so I was able to continue working the whole time, right from the first discovery in March all the way to the end of June. June 1st, I went back in and had new PET CT scans, and the cancer had disappeared. Now, I believe...
For 5 months, basically.
Yeah, first of all, the cancer had disappeared, and I believe that it was a matter of faith, it was a matter of prayer, a matter of good attitude, a matter of a whole bunch of things. You can't say a lot because they're real sensitive in cancer land about whatever claims. They do tell you, though, that chemotherapy may, in 50% of cases, shrink a tumor, but it will never eliminate. With me, after 2 sessions of chemotherapy, it was gone, 100%. So I went in and I had a special surgery done to take out the scar tissue, and they took in the margins, which is what they do to see if it spread into the margin, and they came back and the pathology report was 0. That gone. So I was like, somebody packed up and left. And I said, well, I'm scot-free. This is the first couple of weeks of June. I'm scot-free. I can go on with the rest of my life. And they said, no. In 95% of cases, they say there are microscopic cells that are undetectable with PET scans and CT scans. That if you do not take radiation treatment, which kills those microscopic cells, there's a very great chance that it will come back. And when it comes back, we have already blown our load with regard to chemo and surgery. We're out of stuff that we can do. The secondary treatment is very, very unpleasant. Very unpleasant. They have to go in and they have to rip out your throat. If you don't have radiation, then when they have to go back in with surgery, they have to open up your whole face. They have to go in and clean it out. You will be on chemo for 2 years. It's just, they said, look, it's just too much danger for you not to have radiation. I said, but and radiation is awful. It's so painful. They said, no. So I got a second opinion. Second opinion said, you get that radiation.
Okay.
Top experts in the country.
You did chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Then, even when the cancer was gone, you did radiation.
For 6 weeks. And Radiation, what it does, gradually cooks your whole head and face. It burns your tongue so that you are dry. Your tongue is as dry as dust. Kills your taste glands and opens up big sores in your mouth, which hurt like the devil. You have to take painkillers all the time. You start to live on Percocet and all kinds of things. By the end of the chemotherapy, you can't speak. You're weak. You're in pain all the time, and so on. By the end of the radiation. And at the end, the doctor said, I think you've had enough. And after 6 weeks, instead of the normal 7, after 6 weeks, he said, we can stop. And then my other doctor, I said, how will I be able to speak again? He said, 2 weeks. 2 weeks after radiation, your throat should be okay, so you can speak. 14th day after radiation, I spoke to 600 people in Singapore for an entire week. I was back.
Wow. Well, number one, congratulations. I mean, really, we all felt with great certainty that he was going to beat the cancer. And I think we just all believed that. It was almost like not even a question that he wasn't going to beat it. I think all the positive thinking, the mental attitude, certainly along with the diagnosis that the doctors gave, all led to a very strong belief that the cancer would be beaten.
I've often been asked over those subsequent 12 months, 11 months, was there a time when you doubted Brian's ability to come out on top of this disease? And I will confess, there were times when I would awaken at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sometime in the wee hours of the morning, with Brian on my mind. And I felt fear. I felt doubt. I thought, my God, I mean, I'm pulling for Brian, I'm praying for Brian. I know millions of people around the world are doing the same thing. But after all, there's no guarantees. And those moments were very lonely moments, very long moments. But I must say that during my waking hours, during my conscious hours, never did it cross my mind that Brian could beat this disease. Never. The man is too strong, he's too focused, he's too committed. He's got too strong a will to succumb.
I never felt that he wouldn't beat the cancer. That thought never entered my mind. That being said, the treatment for the cancer was very harsh. And on a daily basis, I had to remind myself that it was going to get more difficult until it got better. And that whole process lasted at least 4 months. And so I didn't have any negative final thought, but my daily thought pattern was prayer and doing what was necessary to keep Brian strong. I spent a lot of time making sure he ate. That was one very difficult thing for him because of not being able to swallow. He had a very, very sore throat, very dry. And so I would really pour a lot of calories into his meals, his liquid meals. So that was my primary focus at that time.
This is absolutely amazing. I know one of the things that I've heard you talk about and I've read in your books, that every experience, no matter what, is a learning experience. So here you are, 6 months of your life is totally disrupted, yet you have the attitude of gratitude and you learn. What were some of the major takeaways, learning experiences for you that will really continue to shape the rest of your life?
Well, the first thing I learned is that everything I've been teaching and preaching to people over the years, I absolutely believe. That's a real test. See, it's fine to say it, but when you have to live it, it's a real test. The second thing I've learned is that you can find something good in anything. And this was interesting because all my friends, yourself especially, and others, were straightforward. They were there with me the whole time. In some cases, people, when they hear that you have cancer, they abandon the person. They just disappear. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to talk to the person. They just kind of fall off the edge of the earth.
Do you think it's because they're afraid? They don't know what to do? They don't know how to react?
Oh, yeah, because you think of cancer equals death. And so when they first tell you have cancer, the first thought you have is that you're going to die. But here's another thing. If you do the research, and it's really important that you get as much information, you'll find that most people don't die now. 1 in 3 people will have cancer. But I'm speaking to person after person that I know personally and in business who said, oh yeah, I had cancer, and I'm back again. This person had cancer and went through the treatment, which is very unpleasant. But I went went to another thing. I said, there are support groups for people who have cancer. And I've never been to a support group in my life. I have my own support group. But I decided to go to the support group and listen and talk to other people who had throat cancer or who had gotten through it. And it was extremely helpful. They said, well, this will happen to you, and be prepared for this, and that when this happens, here's some things you can take that will help, and so on. So the support groups are very good. If you have a person who has cancer, immediately you can find a support group, their internet, their doctor will tell you, and so on. And these people sort of give you a feeling that it's okay, you will get through this. And in most cases, you will get through it. The other thing is follow your doctor's advice. There are all kinds of stories about you can take asparagus shoots and you can go to Mexico and take almond extract and so on and so forth. One of the things I found is that there are millions of dollars being spent finding something that will alleviate cancer. That if anybody could come up with anything that would have any effect in reducing the incidence of death from cancer, that person would get a Nobel Prize and be rich and be paraded down
Every major street.
Yeah. So this idea that there's some kind of great conspiracy out there because the cancer industry is so profitable and they don't want you to find these things, don't fall prey to that. The American Cancer Institute said that there has never been a single substance that has been found that cures or reduces cancer. Every single one of them is anecdotal. Somebody took it, and as a result of maybe the attitude or the cancer, they got better, and they said, it was because I took some asparagus or I took some apricots or something like that. No, the medical profession is working on reducing. It's all they do. They have what is called standard of care. These are words you learn. The standard of care is based on the most current research. What is the exact combination of chemo, surgery, and radiation that will most likely guarantee the greatest and best result for the cancer patient? And these people, these are wonderful professionals. They call them saints and angels, the doctors and nurses. These people are obsessed with saving, helping cancer patients. So really, it's really important to listen to the pros.
Awesome. So let me ask you a question. I know you're into health and nutrition and vitality and great energy. Did you alter your diet? Did you alter any of your daily behaviors and habits around your life?
Yeah, you have to, because first of all, you lose your appetite with chemotherapy. You lose your ability to swallow with radiation. Right? So your appetite diminishes dramatically. When you have throat surgery of any kind, then the foods that you can eat, I could only eat pureed soups. So it was like thick drinks, thick warm drinks. So you'd eat a lot of soups. You have no ability to drink wine or anything else.
And you love your wines.
And I love wine. But you almost are forced into a weight loss program. They are really adamant that you keep your weight up, even if you have to take desserts and ice creams and everything else. Because if your weight gets too low, your ability to deal with the chemo and the radiation suffers. So they'll actually give you a feeding tube, directly into your stomach, where you have to keep yourself nutritionized, or whatever it happens, the word. So you just keep following the professionals, and the professionals have seen this 1,000 times. They know what your situation is going to be. You call them up and they get back to you. They give you recommendations for something for this and something for that. And the critical thing is keep optimistic. Just be positive and keep busy.
So how much do you think, or how much do you believe, that your optimism and the way you approached cancer helped you in recovery?
Well, there's two things. First of all, the optimism is terribly important. Because, as you know, when you have a positive mindset, it affects your biology, it affects your chemical structure, it affects your blood, especially it affects your immune system. And your immune system is enormously powerful in overcoming any infection in your body, including a cancer cell. Every body is full of cancer cells. Only a few bodies will metastasize. The cancer will come to life, always after a severe emotional event which depresses the immune system. So that's the first thing to understand. The second thing is to have the honesty to deal with the emotional situation that caused this, that caused it to activate, caused it to trigger. And that requires sometimes counseling, requires honesty, it requires facing the truth. I hated my parents. I hate my job, my career. I'm in an unhappy marriage. Whatever it is, admit